Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and little things I've learned along the way. And I was thinking about this friend of mine, I don't know. So anyway, today I received a comment on my video, on my main channel, and it was kind of addressing the fact that I was focusing my attention, or social media was focusing their attention on things that they didn't need to focus on, like cosmetics or pop culture and things like that. And why were we not addressing more serious things? And the comment was kind of in a harsh way. But it made me start thinking, right? It made me start thinking about what really is important, you know? It's like a lot of people say, why are you focusing on this and you're not focusing on the things that matter in life, you know, like famine and homelessness and, you know, children that are dying at the children's hospital and things like that. But, you know, it's interesting that a lot of us want to have that conversation. I've even been on that side of it as well before, you know, without really going. I mean, how many of us regularly on a regular basis are donating, you know, 20 hours a week to the children's hospital, or, you know, going to homeless shelters 5 days a week? Now, I know actually a lot of people that do stuff like that, but typically the ones that I do are very silent about it. You know, like, it's not, they're like, oh yeah, going to the homeless shelter today. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, they do it because that's who they are, but they don't really ever talk about it. And, you know, I've had a couple friends of mine that have actually gone, you know, over to other countries and, you know, into impoverished areas, and I've talked a lot about this on my vlog as well. My publisher is one of these people, to help, you know, people in that indigenous people in that area that had no resources, and tried to help them like build businesses, or, you know, give them education, or help with food and housing and things like that. You know, I've had friends of mine that have done Habitat for Humanity. I've had friends of mine, you know, that have, I mean, as a social worker in the past, I've had friends of mine that, you know, were directors of homeless shelters, you know, outreach programs, on and on and on. But I do think it's a good question to ask myself, and I actually said this in 2017. If you watch my vlog, you'll remember this, that I said I wanted to donate more time in 2018, that money is one thing, but actually donating time and having a pivotal perspective change, or having a change of mind about things, is really important, I believe. And I think for a lot of us, the only way that really happens is by actually working with people that are less fortunate or have less than us, okay? And I think that one of the things that's really important about doing that is when you start working with people that have less than you do, or their circumstances are different, you know, like maybe they've lost housing due to a storm or a fire or something like that, that it's not, you know, this whole feeling of, well, I have more, you have less, so I'm going to help you out. What you realize very, very quickly is we are all human beings on the same human spectrum, having a human experience, right? So that could be any one of us. And it really is a life-changing perspective if you've done any of that kind of work, because you realize that quick how grateful we should be for the lives that we have. I wanted to tell a story about this friend of mine that I had back in the day, and I still talk to her sometimes, and I'm sure she doesn't watch my videos. So if she does, she's heard this conversation before, and it won't be any shock to her. But I have a friend of mine, and, you know, she has a very blessed life. You know, she's really never had to work. She has beautiful cars, beautiful houses, travels a lot, you know, travels to really fun places a lot, and, you know, has access to go do anything that she wants to do. And so this was, you know, she's got kids and, you know, whatever, but she, like, you know, takes care of her kids, and that's basically it. Well, a couple years ago, we were talking, and, you know, she was sharing about, like, how miserable she was. And this is somebody that is, I would say, unhappy on a pretty regular basis about their circumstances or whatever, you know? And so I had this conversation with her, and I said, you know, it's really hard for me. And a lot of times I bite my tongue with people that I don't think really want to hear what I have to say, because it's like, why am I going to, you know, like, have this conversation with you if you're not going to listen to what I'm going to say to begin with? But I loved her enough that I felt like I wanted to say something to her that might impact some kind of change, you know? And I said to her, I said, you know, I love you, and I said, and I understand that you are miserable. She used the word miserable. And I said, but the problem is you don't have a lot of gratitude for what you have in your life. I mean, you have great family, you have great kids, you travel all the time, you don't ever have to worry about paying your rent, or she doesn't pay any of her bills, right? And I said, and you have no gratitude for that whatsoever. She looked at me without missing a beat, and she said, I know that there are starving children in Africa, and I know that there are kids fighting for their lives down at Riley Hospital downtown. But today, in my misery is real. I am completely miserable, and my misery is equal to that. And you know, like for a moment, I just talked about this on my vlog not too long ago. For a moment, I kind of was like, okay, I can get where she's coming from. Like in her reality, her misery is real, you know? In her reality, not having a boyfriend, not having a lot of close friends to go do stuff with is miserable for her, right? Really? I mean, is it equal to fighting for your life at Riley Hospital at 6 years old? Is it equal to not knowing where your next meal is going to come from, or being afraid to drink water because you might, get some kind of disease? Is it equal to having been orphaned by AIDS? Is it equal to, not knowing where your next shelter is going to come from? Really? And the more I thought about it, the more bothersome it became for me, And then I looked at it and I thought, I do believe that our friends around us, and I get in a lot of arguments with people about this, I do believe that our friends around us are representative of who we are as people. Therefore, if we stand by people, okay, that continue to put out negativity or ugliness out there in the world, to some degree, that speaks of who we are as people, right? And, we've had that kind of similar conversation, not those exact words, but over time. And I slowly just kind of distanced myself from her. I thought, she's never going to see it in a different way. She's never going to have a different perspective over this. If she calls me, she wants to go have lunch, I'll go have lunch with her. But to be Best Judy's with her, no, I don't really have enough time in my life for somebody that doesn't have enough gratitude in their heart to really see how blessed they are, And even if we're living in some shithole apartment and we know where our next meal is going to come from, and we have, a 60-hour-a-week job that we're getting paid $7.10 for an hour and we can't stand, well, hell, we got a lot more than some people, And every day since I've started doing my daily gratitude list on January 1st, which is profoundly changed my life, right? It's interesting the things that reoccur on my list, like having good health for the day, having peace of mind, having a warm house, having had food to eat for the day, on and on and on. My husband's health, my dog's health, my family's health, things like that. We can't take those things for granted. And when we start getting into self-pity and we start getting into that mode of, well, you don't understand what it's like for me, or, if you had my life, you'd be miserable too. That's a bunch of bullshit. There's always somebody out there that has it worse than you, and there's always somebody out there that has it better than you. And in any situation that I go through in my life, I try to remind myself of that. I do not like to victimize myself. I just don't love playing the victim at all, because I don't get anywhere, right? People are like, oh, yeah, we all say that. But no, I really don't, and I'll tell you why. And I do think there are people that like to play the victim, and there have been times in my life that I liked playing the victim, right? But not in the last, let's say, 10, 15 years. And the reason why is that I have a design for living today through recovery. And what I realize is that by playing the victim, I am not growing. I am not becoming a new person. I am not changing for the better. And I don't want any part of that, right? So when we start getting into that self-deprecating, pitying kind of mode of, well, God, my life is so tough and I don't have anybody to talk to. Ask yourself, what are you doing to change that? Ask yourself, are you putting your life in relation to other people's? Are you seeing the gifts that you have in relation to other people's lives? Are we really putting this in the grand context of what the world is meant to be? Because when you look at the world like this, that we're born, we live, we die, and what we put in the middle of it is ours, when we look at our lives that way, right? Our whole life is an experience, a journey, a learning experience, not to be spent in bed with the covers pulled over us feeling sorry for ourselves, right? Saying, oh my God, if you had my life, you'd be miserable too, Or I understand that there are children dying in Africa and there are children fighting for their life at the children's hospital tonight. But in my reality, I am miserable. That is some selfish bullshit. We don't grow from that, and we don't have any kind of amazing life because we can never get out of that, right? And what we have to do to get out of that is we have to start seeing the things that we're grateful for. We have to start seeing the gifts that are given to us on a daily basis. We have to see how blessed we are to have the life that we want. Even if it's some things that we don't want to do, like going to Christmas with our problematic family, or, like having to go to a job that we don't love, but we're still getting a paycheck. And so what I offer you is this. When you fall into the negative, okay, try quickly to see the flip side of that. Try constantly to see the flip side of that, you know? Well, I was in a car accident. Well, I wasn't hurt. I was in a car accident. Well, they weren't hurt, you know? Well, I lost my job. Well, I can go find another job. You know, we have to like turn the things into positives. And that's what we have to try to do on a daily basis just to get by and be grateful for the life that we have so that we continue to grow and learn on a daily basis. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.